Hello there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's a pleasure to have you back here, and it's also a pleasure to have my bearded and bald brother, my right-hand man, my partner in crime, Paddy Boy, with me. For it is, as you can see, the transfer window is the run-in live. We are a mere 25 minutes away from the end of the transfer window for another season, and we're here to talk about the lack of action that's there. However, in case you're wondering, smart dress man and all that, not only is this the transfer run-in show, we are also pitching this as hopefully the requiem ceremony for the end of the tenure of Mr. Michael Nicholson and the rest of the messers at the top of the board. Messers in terms of that business type way, but messers in terms of making a mess of our club. Because once again, we are ticking down the minutes to Groundhog Day. We are ticking down the minutes to, quite frankly, an embarrassing state of affairs and a bit of a disaster. So, Paddy Boy, how are you just feeling about it at this moment in time, my good man?
Mate, you hit the nail right on the head when you say it. It's Groundhog Day. It is what it is. We sit here every transfer window. We sit here every single time. We're full of hope at the start of it. Well, some of us are. I wasn't. And it's lived up to my expectations. That's all I'm going to say. We need the board to be held accountable for this, Steve-O. And they're just making an absolute arse of it again. And Martin Neill is getting made look like a fool because he's been out there, he's been standing in front of the media, getting hounded. When are we going to see something, Martin? Do you know anything, Martin? Blah, 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 blah. He's joked about it, saying that he sees the press and he's sleeping, saying that he sees all of this kind of stuff. But, oh my God, mate, how much of a fool are they making us look? Do you know what I mean? It's just own FC, mate. That's all we are now. There doesn't seem to be anything coming through. I'll be extremely surprised if we get something for now to the end of the transfer window.
We have got it ticking on in the background. You guys will be keeping us updated as much as we're keeping you updated. We're doing this together. It's like, think of it as almost like a wee end of the transfer window agony, therapy session as well. So get your thoughts out here as well, and we shall talk it through. Now, what we'll do is, obviously there isn't too much happening, so we'll have a wee wind back. We'll reminisce about, I was going to say the good times in this transfer window, but I would say some of the stuff that came up, what we thought of it, how that ended up panning out in the classic Celtic fashion, and then of course, as and when the things come in. As Paddy said there, we know that we've got Junior Adamu is in the door. Okay, that's fine. Faranka's in the door, Aguero's in the door. That's fine. We knew that. That's nothing new. As he says, we'll see if anything else comes. Well, we know that we're pretty much expecting Benjamin Arthur. We spoke about earlier. We'll talk about him again. And of course, we are also looking for Joe Mufka as well, who is more than likely, those are the two that we're going to get. And anything on top would just be absolute insanity. But with 22 minutes left? Who knows? Maybe something will happen, he said with a smile. But let's get down to business. The wee bit of housekeeping, as we always do. Welcome to the channel. We're coming in strong. We're now up to over 270 live on YouTube. I can't see the numbers for X, but we are live there as well. I believe Paddy's got it rocking on TikTok as well. So welcome to every single one of you. This is our main destination. This is our home on YouTube. So if you're listening and you can hear my voice on TikTok, or if you're watching, you're on X, get yourself over to here, get subscribed. It costs you absolutely nothing. By the way, and that's the exact same money that we've spent at 10:39 on the 2nd of February. That's how much money we spent in this transfer window. And just think, you'll get enjoyment out of joining the CWO. You won't get misery. You'll get enjoyment. It costs you nothing. It's free. Get that big, hugely that big, massive reaching through. Thumbs up if you like it. And all our handles are down below in the description. So let us know. We'll try and bring up some of your points as well. We'll work through it together. So Paddy, let's rewind back. We didn't really know what we were going to get getting into this transfer window because, of course, Brendan parted ways. It was all Brendan's fault, by the way. It'll be interesting to see how that one pans out tomorrow. And then it was all the fans' fault. It was interesting to see how that one pans out tomorrow. But we ended up uncertainty. We knew, and we had this conversation before the Nancy experiment where we says, Martin's doing well, and I think as much as there was a lot of shouts, let's keep him in the door, there was also the wee party that went, he wouldn't want it full time. And
Yeah.
then we find that maybe he did want to. We rolled the dice because we wanted something permanent. We went with Wilfred Nancy. It completely didn't work out. And then Tisdale fell on his sword. He was the guy that was meant to be arranging it all, left an absolute shit show, and his guy went with it. So we kind of thought that we were going to be getting uncertainty, temporary stopgaps, and mate, as you said, Lone FC, that is pretty much what it was going to be and what it has been so far. But even with that said, did you genuinely think it would be 100% straight up loans and the quality of what we've been linked with throughout the whole period would be as poor?
Extremely poor, Steve-O. Listen, you look at Araujo, right? You look at his background, obviously came from Bournemouth, previous Barcelona and things like that. Listen, that guy's a player. He's outstanding, and to have him on loan, I think is a great signing. But as far as I'm led to believe with him, there is no option to buy, or we probably couldn't afford them. Is what that's going to come down to. Vanchera, I think, looks decent. Good in the air, quick turn of pace, things like that. But was I impressed with his statistics when we first signed him? No, I wasn't. I think the big guys came in and he's done a job. But then again, we've been used to Johnny Kenny up front. We've been used to, listen, young Callum Osman before he got injured. Iheanacho made a glass. You get things like that. We've not been used to actually having a striker up there who is pretty deadly. And now some of the players that are coming in, Steve, it's you're looking at the stats and they haven't played since early last year, and guys that have got like strikers that have got like 4 assists and 3 goals in the last year and a half, and it's not what you want to be looking at. Now, I'm not saying we're going to be going out there and signing guys like Victor Gyökeres and whoever else is banging goal. Well, he's in crap now, but let's face it, we're not going to go out there and
Off a standard.
of a decent standard. Guys, Matsu Anisi, do you know what I mean? Again, how many times is this guy's name going to come up? Now, Motherwell are turning around and are saying to us that now Matsu Anisi isn't for sale. But if we went in there with 5 million in Stevie Welsh, that's what it's probably up to now. We'd probably get him. But it's just, like they say in there, mate, it's a shambles. We are an absolute shambles of a club when it comes to transfer windows. And I don't know why. I don't even know what's going on, mate. Honestly, it gets to this stage and we're just sitting there like, come on. Do you know what I mean? It's brutal, mate. Absolutely brutal.
It's a whirlwind of emotions. You know, as I said the other day when I was on here, the great thing and also the hard thing about being a supporter of any football club is that it is football. Yeah, it's 11 guys kicking a ball around a pitch, but to many it's their escape. It's their, it's what they live for. They build up their entire week around it. It's something that obviously they get great joy out of, but it's also like a relationship. And unfortunately for us, it's been something of an abusive relationship. I think that's fair to say. No, it's maybe a harsh sort of comparison to make. But the reality of it is, and again, what I would say is, without being negative and overly negative, and I know that maybe this will be the tone tonight, so I do apologise, but it's not for trying to be dramatic. It's just how I'm feeling. I'm venting, and I'm feeling the exact same as you all are here. But I would like to think that hopefully at the end of tonight, once 11 o'clock strikes and we have left with what we can all see is out in front of us, let's be honest here, it's going to be Joe Mufka is going to be a 20-year-old guy who's played 16 games as a pro, right? 2 of which were minutes on the pitch for the first team. That's what you're going to end up with. And you're going to have that much spent, right? For an entire season, we'll have had an outlay of circa £14 million top end, still posting a profit of around about £15 million. More importantly, at a point where we find ourselves 6 points behind Hearts, who have spent only about £5 million, by the way, this season, and on an even keeling with Rangers, who I say again were about 12 points adrift in 10th, sacked a manager, and who have went out and spent, by comparison, fortunes to us, irrelevant to whether you think those players are good quality or not. They have spent heavily, and again tonight they went and spent about £5 million. All right, and a guy for 3rd division in Germany, but it's irrelevant because they identified them, they put out the money, and they went for it. It's unforgivable. And again, now as we're up about 400 of these, I must make it clear in case you're wondering, what the hell's that guy doing? Welcome back to Celtic World Order. Is the title, is the transfer window running? But as I said, it should also be hopefully the requiem service to celebrate the end of the tenure of Michael Nicholson and all of the other Celtic board, which hopefully, as of tomorrow, we should start to see some departures. Let's crack on. But Paddy, yeah, this is the problem. They know that people will keep coming back. And we've seen the comments when we've made these criticisms. Look at the trophies, X amount of trebles, X amount of this, X amount of that. And it's your coverall. I'm not entitled. You're not entitled. I don't think anyone else who is complaining is entitled. We are totally grateful of those titles. But hopefully at the end of this, people will realise and their eyes will be opened that this has been managed demolition. People say managed decline, managed demolition of our club. We find ourselves with the most expensive squad we've ever assembled, the highest wage bill, and quite possibly one of the worst squads I've seen in recent years, Paddy.
Yeah, and that's it. And I said it before, that the board wear that with that badge with pride, that we've got the most expensive squad that we've ever had and the most expensive wage bill. And it's like that's some sort of achievement from them telling us that. That was one of the things that was brought up at the meeting with the collective group. And they were sitting there really, really proud of this fact that this was the most expensive squad. And you come to transfer window, Steve-O, and you look at it, you look at what we've got coming off the bench and how many managers have pointed out that we need reinforcements. Brendan Rodgers used to get a lot of stick for saying that we need to bring in quality. He always used that word. He says, we need quality, we need quality, we need quality. Wilfred Nancy, yes, whether you liked him or not, said we needed players who could play multiple positions, because at the minute we've got guys who, if you're a right back, you're just a right back. You're not going to do anything else other than that. If you're a right winger, you're a right winger. It's simple as that. He didn't have guys that could do what he was asking them to do. Now, Martin O'Neill's came out again, and he said the exact same thing. We need this, we need this, we need this. And he's been open about it. And still, these custodians, we'll call them, are sitting there on their piles of money, counting it, loving life, and taking the not another penny to another level. And
they're doing their own.
And it's brutal, honestly, absolutely horrible. And they need to be held accountable. Like we had said, when we had Tisdale in there, he was the man who was going out and identifying these players, probably identify guys like Balakwisha and whoever else. It's a fantastic job that he's done there. I'm delighted that he's out the door. But we need to be getting players in of a certain quality. And I don't feel like we've got that. I had seen somebody put in the comments before there, Steve, obviously, when we were saying you're looking at the stats of these players coming in, and like we're saying, it doesn't fill you with that amount of confidence and whatever. But I don't know who it was.
Somebody, this is a good point here. It is a good point.
That's what I'm getting to.
Yes,
they said Sutton, Larson, and Lubo. If we'd seen their stats, we wouldn't have looked at them, basically. Especially guys like Lubo. You look at where Lubo came from. Do you know what I mean? What was a 27-year-old Slovakian or something like that coming into Celtic, and you're like, who's this guy? What's he going to do? By God, did we get a shock with him? I'm not saying we're going to sign another Lubo or another Larson or Sutton. By God, I would love to. But yeah, it's hard when it comes to this late on in the transfer window when you know what you need. We need another 3 players minimum.
Yeah, the feeling's mutual. Keep bringing in your thoughts. Let us know, firstly, the guys that are in the door, right? Regardless of the fact that it's a net spend of absolutely zero, hee-haw, which, by the way, there's over 500 of you watching, which is the same price it costs you to subscribe to this channel. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. Let's see the numbers pumping up. Thank you for supporting us. I know that there is many options out there. A lot of the big boys are out here podcasting tonight. Everybody and their granny. Podcasts that haven't been on for years have been coming and making a comeback tonight, such as we. So thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. We really, really appreciate that. And as we say, if you're watching it and catch up again, thank you as well. We really do. So we appreciate it. But yeah, here's the point, and this is it. You said it, Paddy, you couldn't paint a red neck on these people.
Yeah.
Now, we thought that going into this transfer window, maybe foolishly, we had our eyes wide open and we knew that there was going to be an element of short-termism. We knew that. We knew that there was going to be loans to tide us over. And again, I agree with the previous comment said, we are only judging people based on the snapshot of their figures, right? Now, they could well all turn out, and hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, touch hairy wood, that they all turn out and smash it and they pull us on. I am 100% on that. As soon as they pull on that shirt, I'll be supporting them. I'll be hoping for the best. But just from what we're doing here, having conversations, hearing the word quality, 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 a lot of these guys have shown, except Movkit, I'll be totally honest, it just looks pish across the board. Sorry, it does. Kavanka and Ademo, they've had periods where they have looked good. And they've just had extended periods of down on their luckness. But the problem I had, Paddy, was we keep hearing quality, quality, quality. And I felt that there had to be an element of, I think Araujo's maybe the one that will stand out for that crowd. But having maybe one at push two guys that are down in their luck, but supplementing with guys who you're bringing in who are getting games for their team, or they're on the edge, they're on the periphery of their squad.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting. But what we're doing is we're rolling the dice with every single guy that's coming in. Every single guy's a hard luck story, and we're hoping that they're going to turn a corner. It just seems like an unnecessary risk to take. And I thought that when we found ourselves, as I say, where we are on the table, some of the results, losing the cup final, we said the one thing that Dermot Desmond doesn't take kindly is being embarrassed. And he should be embarrassed with the way things have panned out this season. So we were expecting a reaction, and we just simply haven't got it. Is this telling beyond this season? We've suggested that there's maybe going to be wholesale changes at the club. Is there maybe an alternative reason other than just it's the way Celtic do, we're a shit show? Do you think there could be a change in the guard, not from a Dermot Desmond standpoint, but do you think it's going to be maybe root and branch changes at Celtic where they're just like, there's no fucking point, I'm going to change it anyway?
I hope so. Let's get these people out, hold them accountable for what's happening here, because like you said, Steve, it's not just happened overnight. This has been something that's been ongoing. It's been managed decline. It's been happening the last 10 year. Like, I know people will point to the Ange year and whenever else, and we're still living off of that. I've said it on here many a time. We're still living off the Ange's transfer window, let's face it. We've not really done anything since then. And to go back before that, you're going way back to when we actually went out and actually spent a decent amount of cash and brought players in that were ready to go straight away. It's like you're saying there as well. You look at what we're bringing in, and it seems to me it's project players. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it's players who are, they're down on their luck. Players that aren't hitting the ground running. Guys like, what we said there, Chris Sutton, he was like that. He was down on his luck. He was at Chelsea, wasn't doing too well, and had a bit of a Snyder of a time, and then obviously come up to Celtic and kicked on again. You can get one out of three strike rate with that probably, but we're kind of banking on what we're bringing in just now for every one of these players to hit the ground running and be exactly what we need. And I don't think it's going to work out like that, mate. I think there's going to be a lot of dead wood coming into the club at this moment in time. And I know what you're going to say, it's all loan signings and whatever else, so we can just get rid. But then that just brings you back to the summer transfer window and you're in the same boat again.
It's a massive rebuild that we're facing in the summer. Of course, the scale of that rebuild and how it shapes up is going to be completely dependent on what the outcome of the season is. Regardless, you are looking at it and saying, if Celtic win the league, it's massive root and branch. You need to get rid of a lot of dead wood. You need to tool up. How many times you've said that? For European qualifiers, potentially the Champions League. If we unfortunately do not win the league, not only do we need a clear out and a new squad put together, but the value of that rebuild is going to be significantly reduced. Let's not kid ourselves on here, right? We have, at current time, is speaking 6 minutes away for the deadline slamming shut for an entire season. I say it again, we're about circa £14 million, and we'll have more than that in profit sitting, which is simply shameful, mate. That's come back to, I mean, I don't have it to hand, but I would imagine the last time we spent as little as that would probably begin right back to the sort of Ronnie Dyler phase, when there was little to no competition whatsoever, which was part of the problem, because we should have spent and we should have developed and we should have used those years where we had plain sailing to build with a view of, we're going to take care of the domestic stuff, but let's see how far we can push it and make some extra money in Europe. We missed that step. That was mismanagement. They'll tell us it was cautious management because of the circumstances, and obviously folk weren't too enamoured with the domestic level of football that are going, but that's a byproduct. But this is one thing I want to talk to you about. I had Stevie on, we mentioned that. I don't want to labour it too much, but I've not had your opinions on it. A lot of people are shocked that we didn't sell Engels, because that's exactly what this board do. Now, I had a theory, I had a wee think about it when I was out after I'd done the show. I was speaking to my old man, and I'll run it by you and you can tell me where you're at with it. I think that we didn't sell Engels for two reasons. One was because of where we find ourselves in the league. 6 points behind, even keeling with Rangers, and we knew that we weren't really going to bring in much. So as daft and as foolish and as, don't give a fuck that this board do, I think a wee bit at the back of their mind went, this will be more nuclear than it already is going to be if we sell this guy, because we know we're not capable and we're not getting anybody teed up. Because that's the thing, folks said it earlier in the comments, if Celtic had done their job properly and identified target A, B, C, maybe even D, they would have happily have sold Engels, because they would have been able to go and reach out and get one of them. That suggests and shows that there's nothing there. So one reason I think they didn't take the money was because they knew it would be a lot nuclear. Second of all, as well, is because there isn't anybody there. And the third one, which is kind of almost a wee bit of a repeat of point one is the league position. See if we were on top of the league, whether it was by 3 points, 4 points, 1 point, or if we were a point behind, I guarantee you they would have sold them. They would have sold them, because we were really just that grabbing close distance. 6 points is still touching distance, but I feel that they've just realised we can't get away with that one. Because look at when we sold Kyogo, for example. We were in a good position and they thought, fuck it, we'll get away with that. We'll just sell them. We'll sell them, no worries, because we're cruising it now. No worry, we can get away with it. I think that's the reason we've not done it, mate.
Yeah, I agree with that to an extent as well. You took the words out of my mouth. You start talking about guys like Kyogo, then you look at Dyson last year, possibly being away, Yang ready to sign on the dotted line, getting told to come back because we didn't have a said replacement for them. Now, I think that's probably, in my opinion, why this deal hasn't gone through. I think they've basically looked at it and went, this is going to go, this will be catastrophic if we sell him and we don't bring in another midfielder. The fans will just go crazy about it. We would have, even me, listen, you all know I don't rate Arne Engels to the highest accord. I think 25 million is an absolute fantastic price to get rid of him for. But do I think we have a player that we can bring off that bench who is better than Arne Engels? No, I don't. And that's kind of where I think the Celtic board are with it. So I think if they had done the business earlier and brought in, was it the young Norwegian lad? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. The boy as well from the Austrian lad. What was his name? Is it tell us? I can't remember his name.
Was that
the young Austrian lad? If we brought him in as well, I think you could have offloaded somebody like Arne Engels for the 25 million. But I just think they haven't done their job properly. They haven't got a replacement in, so they can't really afford to get rid. And that's kind of where they stand at it, because we normally sell an asset in order to buy an asset, Steve, and we spoke about that so many times. And obviously with no sale in this transfer window, then we're looking at the sad fact that it's just going to be this loan, that loan, here and there, bringing guys in for 6 months and then putting us back into a shit state come the end of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I am surprised about, though, however, is on top of not bringing in many players, particularly the numbers that we need, I think that, when we eventually get the confirmation, of course, of Joel Mufka and Benjamin Arthur, I think that we are still incredibly light. I think if you'd asked me what we needed at the front end, I would say we need 2 strikers, right? Okay, Faranka and Adamu, we've got that. I would have said that we needed a winger. You can
Yeah.
argue, well, he is a winger, Mivka, right? But I mean, a good one, right? Again, maybe I'm happy to be proven wrong. I would have said we needed a defensive midfielder, and I would have said we needed a defender. Now, again, you'll say Arthur's a defender. I'm sorry, I don't count him. I don't count him. I don't count a 20-year-old guy with 16 games under his belt, 2 of which have been minutes for the senior team, and the rest have been in developmental, not even Premier League 2 developmental at the Cup, right? I'm sorry, and I don't want to reinvent the history and rewrite history and say that it was amazing, but I refuse to believe that this guy is going to be any more equipped or better than Stephen Welsh, who, I'm not a big fan of him. I'm not a big fan of Dane Murray, but my point
Yeah.
stands. I refuse to believe that he's going to be more equipped and more capable as a fourth choice than those guys are. I completely refuse to believe that he's going to be better than Jemai Simpson-Pusey, who
Yeah.
had first team experience, including in the Champions League. It just makes no sense. So I don't even count him. I don't count him as being part of the signing, what we need. And the window is closed, Paddy. So there we go. We'll get it round there. And again, I've seen a bit of confusion. 700 strong. Love it. Get your comments in. The window's officially closed. Let us know your thoughts on it. Welcome, Plunge. Have I been to a funeral? Yes, I have, of Celtic's transfer window. And as I says again, hopefully it is the proverbial funeral, the requiem service of the tenure of Michael Nicholson as Celtic CEO. Because once again, I say it before, I'll say it again, the decisions that man has been instrumental in over the course of his time in charge have been nothing short of laughable. This season, to his name, he can account for the miscommunication with the manager, the poor transfer window in the summer, the failure to gain a minimum pot of £40 million of the Champions League, so on and so forth. The Wilfred Nancy experiment, all throw it on the pile, it all adds up. It is corporate mismanagement of a football club at the highest level.
100%, mate. And listen, I've said it on here so many times. If you're the CEO of any business and you make a decision that loses them 40 million quid, then you should be held accountable for that. You should be basically out the door with your jotters. It's simply not good enough. I'm just trying to keep a wee eye on this just in case anything flashes up. But the only thing that's came up is saying that the transfer window has now closed in Scotland. 420 saying I can see him resigning tomorrow. Mate, see if he does. It's probably the only decent thing that man has done in his time at Celtic. Yeah. The man is a lawyer. He's not a CEO. And he's shown exactly what he is capable of doing in that role. And that is absolutely hee-haw. Yeah. The board haven't spent a penny. Let us do it as well, guys. Get right on board with it and do not spend another penny.
Yeah, I can see, that it's going to be interesting to say the least. I think that, and this is the hard part, and this is exactly where this board want to position themselves against us, because we are at such a pivotal point now. No change can be made from a plain staff perspective, right? So I'll reiterate this message. As pissed off as I am, as angry and let down and disappointed as every single one of you, is nearly 800 now, he's watching live, it is also important for us to find that fine balancing act between protest, voicing and supporting the team. Yeah. Because by God, this team, those players, Martin and Neill, they are going to need absolutely every single ounce of support that they can possibly get. Yeah. And the board know that. They know that. And I'm not saying that this was necessarily, well, I feel it is almost on the verge of sabotage, but you know what I mean when I say it. If they deliberately done this because they feel it shields them, it would be mad to think that they did. But the point I'm trying to make is they know that we are raging, but they also will know that this team needs support. And they will be hoping that that better side, the good side of us as fans that want to help our team out, comes out. So we need to strike the balance. We need to make the message clear and continue the likes of the chants, the likes of the banners, the stuff out front, whatever it needs to be. But we need to make sure that it doesn't entirely consume every match and every minute of every match because, as I say, it's a fine balancing act, Paddy.
I'm totally on with boycotting things and everything else, but I totally agree as well that the team needs supported, and I'd love to see Celtic Park full and everybody get behind the team. What I want and what I had suggested previously to the collective group was that we, as podcasters, as what you want to call it, fan media or whatever else, if we all got together and we went into Celtic Park and we alerted your Sky Sports and your news, whoever it's going to be, and we said, right, we're going to be outside Celtic Park after the game at the weekend, and we're going to be standing there. We're going to be there for an hour. We're going to be live with every other Celtic podcast, and we're going to call out Michael Nicholson. We're going to ask him the questions that we want answered. We're going to ask this, we're going to ask that, and see if he has the bottle to come out and face the music. And I tell you right now, he wouldn't. He wouldn't do it. But I don't want any angry protests. I don't want any of this shit, because that's ammo for these guys. That's exactly what they need.
Absolutely.
They need that. They need us to kick off, to be agent, to shouting him in the street, and like the guy videoing himself shouting at him in Bologna the last time as well. We don't need any of that crap. What we need is for us to be standing outside there, letting them hear our voices. The last time we done that, Wilfred Nancy gets sacked. Now, if we get there and we go there as a collective, get everyone involved in it, get there and make our voices heard and ask for the answers to why this has been a managed decline for so long. Ask them what they've been playing at, because surely they need to come out and give us something, Steve-O. And that's my thoughts on it. I just hope that we can actually pull something together and do something like that, because
do you know what
it's not good enough.
What I would love to see, and again, wishful thinking, much like any idea that this transfer window was going to be a turning point, what I would like to see is a bit of accountability. Now, we've been banging that drum all season. The collective, we've been banging that all season. They will know that we are all pissed off.
Yeah.
It would be refreshing and highly unlikely, though, that we get some sort of I don't care that it's tempered, right, and it's self-controlled, right, because they're never going to sit in a room with the likes of you and I, fan media, or even, let's be totally honest, they're not going to sit in front of the mainstream media, right? They're not even going to do that, right? But what's the best that we can hope for? Some sort of, in-house production where it's tempered, but at least put your face out there. One of yous grow a backbone and sit down and try, and at least, we know it's going to be waffle, we know it's going to be shite, we know it's going to be lies, we know it's going to be spin, but at least let us hear your version of events from your own mouth as to what has transpired here. Why that we are sitting with around about 70 odd million pounds, why in a whole season we have spent about 14 million pound, an entire season. Why have we done that? Why have we also ended up in that place again? I keep saying it, when we find ourselves in the position we are. Sitting joint second, seesawing up between third, and a lot to fight for. Do you think this has been significant to show any level of care, attention, let alone ambition to try and get us over the line?
There's no ambition shown there, mate. Like we've said before, that this board are not fit for purpose. They really aren't. I would be delighted to see Michael Nicholson or even anyone else from that board to sit there and to do the interview with Jerry McCulloch. Even the shitey generic questions, what's your favourite colour, all that kind of stuff that he likes to ask.
Dermot, you've not been in Scotland for ages. Have you missed fried Mars bars?
Exactly. That kind of question. I mean, what's your favourite colour? Oh, it's green. Fantastic. You hear that, boys? It's green. Way. Aye. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to have him sit there with guys like Michael Nicholson and just say, like, Michael, fans are a wee bit upset. Why haven't we signed any big players this season? Do you know what I mean? Tell us we're holding out because we don't have a permanent manager, or we didn't bring in as much revenue as what we expected this year. Or see if they're brutally honest with us, mate, you can tend to understand a little bit of it, but it's the radio silence. And when we speak to the people who were at the collective meeting, and one of the things that Celtic actually owned up to was the fact that they weren't transparent enough when it came to releasing statements and talking to the fans. Now, basically, at that meeting, they threw the SLO under the bus, and he's sitting there and he's going, well, that's kind of my job. Do you know what I mean? And he's kind of sitting there, and I felt a wee bit sorry for him, if I'm being honest, because he's the one that's got to be feeding that information to us. And it's been radio silence, mate. It's been absolute radio silence. The only interview we've seen with Michael Nicholson this year is when he was trying to back up his appointment at Wilfred Nancy.
Yeah.
And you've seen how that turned out for the clown. Do you know what I mean? So let's have another one with Jerry McCulloch and ask him what he thinks now.
Exactly. And we won't get that. But, you know, here's another stark reality where we are. 10 of the last 16 signings are loans. Now, again, I've seen some comments, and some people are rightfully saying to the extent of, yes, we are complaining, we're bitching, we're moaning, whatever term you want to put on it. And what did we expect? We knew it was going to be, but we did, of course, we knew it was going to be an amount of loans. It was going to be short-termism. The manager said that, but then we also heard mixed stories. Again, probably just to smoke mirrors and create this illusion of effort, where it was Celtic are not adverse to spending a significant amount of money on a permanent player or permanent players if they fit the right sort of demographic and they're of a certain quality. And again, they dangled the nonsense of the likes of Casper Howe and stuff like that out there. Absolute nonsense. There was also Xavier Schlaver as well. Was mentioned as well. These are the kind of names that fans want. It's, oh, look at that, shiny, shiny, shiny. And then you end up with absolute plankton. That's what you end up with. Now, again, just to caveat, Adamu's in there. We're waiting on confirmation. Ijo Muvka, you know what I think of him. And of course, Benjamin Arthur. I like what I see so far of Quaranca. I like what I see of Aguero. Fine. Not the worst situation with those two guys. And I'm willing to hope that the rest of the guys can kick on, because some of them have shown, my bad. One of them has shown, Adamu has shown an element of competency in football. So hopefully
Benjamin Arthur is in the door, Steve-O. Benjamin Arthur is signed.
So in case you don't know who Benjamin Arthur is, and I don't want to bring the tone down, right, just for in case you're all going, oh, guy for Brentford, that's exciting. Well, is it exciting, Paddy? I just want to bring it up, right? Just now that this is one of our, this is for me, this is going to again come back and show you where this level of support of the quality that we've got. Now, what I will say is, and on Benjamin Arthur, right, I've already said my piece about I don't think he's up to it. But here we go, Paddy, right? Let's look at the stats. All seasons, right? Now, as a young guy, he's finding his way, he's learning. 20, right? There you go. 15 games, 1,197 minutes. That's what he's done. Premier League Cup, by the way, in case you're wondering what the Premier League Cup is, it's basically, as it says here, it's a developmental domestic youth cup. That's what it is. That's what the body has games are. In this 12 games in this domestic youth cup. That's it. Not Premier League 2, domestic league cup.
Yeah.
And that is what we think is an acceptable backup. I'm sorry, and sorry before I pass over to you. People are often saying when I criticise or give an opinion on these things, well, Martin Neill, he obviously backs them. He trusts his judgment. Yes, I love Martin Neill. Absolute legend. And I do trust his ability to guide us through this season, right? I still believe in him. And I believe that he's got an eye for a player. But you'll never change my opinion on this. No matter what you say, I'm standing for him. I'll die in this hill. I refuse to believe point blank that Martin Neill has looked at him and went, get him in. That's what I need. He's better than all these guys I'm choosing not to use. I simply don't believe it.
Yeah. I know, and somebody's put in the comments there, Steve-O, as well, and saying that he's no any better than Simpson Pusey. When Simpson Pusey came up, mate, he was on the back of winning the Youth Player of the Year for Man City. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? This guy was actually on the fucking brink of breaking into that squad. And you look at it now, mate, and he's just he was nowhere near the team. Martin gave him a little chance here and there, but he didn't even play a full game. And then he was papped off somewhere else. So this guy coming in, is he a replacement for Stephen Welsh? Have we managed to offload him? Are we going to see someone else coming in?
Yeah, so talk away, just whilst you're doing that, Paddy, just out of interest, I'm bringing up Simpson Pusey's stats here, sorry, as you were, mate.
No, on you go. Like I'm saying, mate, we've got guys in there. We brought back Stephen Welsh. I thought that was because we weren't going to bring any defenders in, but we've brought this guy in. Don't know much about him, but when you look at the level that he's played, Steve, it's not going to fill us all with enthusiasm. He's not going to be the first name on the team sheet, is he? He's going to be one that's going to be coming in if we've got any injuries to guys like Scales or Trusty. We know CCV's out for a wee while as well. But then is this guy going to step in over Welsh, over Dane Murray? Is he going to be playing in front of them, or is he, again, another project player? I take it it's a loan as well that he's been brought in on, because we've certainly not went out and bought anybody.
Yeah, I mean, and there again, I've just brought it. I'm not going to labour it because he's not our player anymore. But that's the body of work that you've got for Jemai Simpson Pusey, right? These two guys are in no way, shape, or form similar.
Yeah,
they're simply not. They're absolutely nowhere near the same. And I get that he's brought in as a backup, right? But it's, as I said before, it's a signing for the sake of a signing.
Yeah.
To be dramatic about it, and funnier things have happened, right? But my opinion, my take, and again, I just a guy in a podcast, I could more than likely will be wrong. He'll not play for Celtic unless 5 guys break their leg. No, genuinely.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy when you look at that.
When is he playing for Celtic? When is he playing for Celtic? Particularly when we hit the split and the run-in. Tell me, when's he playing?
I know. It's madness, mate. It really, really is. But I don't even know where we go for here. Somebody saying they're wrestling Daniel a panic buy, mate. Yeah, it probably is. It's one of the ones where we went out and just, we need a defender. Let's bring this guy in. Who's been scouting this, Steve-O? You look at these stats.
We know there's no one to scout. There's no one to scout.
So what do you do? Just pick a name out of a hat. Right, there you go. Let's bring him in.
Yeah, and here's the question. We know that. Well, do we know? I say I don't want to flip and flop and change my opinions, because I do like the work that Maloney's been putting in. You know, he's been trying to spread himself so thin because he's been asked so much of him, and I do believe that he's been looking at various potential targets. Martin and Neill said as much, but I'm also, as much as I don't want to question guys like Martin and Neill, who I've got much more belief in than I would of, say, Rodgers, or I would have even Wilfred Noncy, even though we didn't really talk transfers. I just wonder and question. This is what Celtic's board have done to you. They've got you questioning everything and everybody. Because we're working tirelessly and we're doing this, we're identifying targets, and hopefully we'll get these guys in. I genuinely believe that Rezic and Gajemis, they were guys that were probably identified by those two, because we knew as much when their names get floated to Martin and he says you might be close on that, and then we ended up with none of them. Yeah. So I feel that Muvka, for example, is a complete and utter pivot and a departure. So I really do question, has it got to the stage where these are just names who have been put to them because the ones that they wanted they couldn't get?
Yeah, probably. Or the board have just done the usual. We like your thinking there, Martin. He'd be a great signing, but what we have got, mate, wait till you see this. Hey, look at this one for you. And it's like you said earlier on, Steve, when you look at the signings and stuff, and they tout names out there, they throw a wee name out and you think, oh, wow, what a signing that would be. Guys like Casper Hawk, you look at that and you look at how he was playing and you think, 9 million, wow. That'd be incredible.
I love that. I love that reference. Exactly. They're as analog as you can get in the digital age. Love that. Love it.
Exactly, mate. And then Casper Hawk scores again, and then the price is up to 10 million. Why are we not going out there and throwing 10 million at Bodo Glimt for him? Do you know what I mean? And guys like Matsu and Issei, that was an easy one. That was so simple to get over the line. And we keep missing out. These big names get you thinking, oh, what if? Do you know what I mean? Even hearing guys like Oxlade-Chamberlain being linked and Raheem Sterling being linked and all of that kind of stuff. Come on, do you know what I mean? That Oxlade-Chamberlain. What was it we were talking about with him, Steve?
So
When was the stats on him?
we're going a tangent, right? But let's do it. So we've got in young Arthur, right? Whoop to do, get the bunt now. Can't wait. We wait for Joe Muvka, who, by the way, let's talk about these two guys. We'll come to Oxlade-Chamberlain because this is the one we expect. Muvka, a guy who has a bit of a dodgy ticker. Now, that's fine. There's many players in football who have issues with their heart. Most notably, one of them was Connor Goldson when he played at Rangers, and he done all right, didn't he? But the point is, this is something that's apparently showed up in his medical before, even at Lorient, and they still took him on. He was wanting to, I believe it was £3 or £4 million up front. This is flew up into the medical, and the last thing of waiting on confirmation was we've renegotiated the deal where it's just geese him on loan, and we'll see how we go. Now, what I will say is, for the avoidance of doubt, I'm all right with that because I think offering £4 million for this guy was fucking scandalous. So I'm quite happy that his heart has kicked up in a shoe where they went, don't know, we'll see how that one goes, because otherwise I think it would just be file under Balakwisha. Again, happy to be wrong here, but the optics it weren't great, Paddy.
Yeah, and I get that, mate, and I get when you look at players and you start bringing players in on loan, like we've done it previously. Bernardo was in on loan, wasn't he? Jota was in on loan. Carter Vickers was in on loan. Adamida. Again, these are guys that we've went out. You've had them for a period of time, and you think, you know what, these guys could slot into this team. Let's bring them in. Let's give them that opportunity. Yes, it works out for some, doesn't for others. But to be bringing guys like this in, Steve, there doesn't seem to be that quality that I'm expecting. Maybe the Celtic board will tell you that I'm too ambitious as a Celtic fan, but what we need,
Paddy,
is
we can't punch above our weight. We can't shoot for the moon. What was it Ross Dermott says? Where we can't overspend, because if you don't, so I'm paraphrasing, if you take that gamble and you don't hit the mark, then you put yourself in financial jeopardy. Remember, he brought up the 90s, mate.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is, as you're saying, we're not even being semi-ambitious. We're not even to spend 15 or under £15 million. I believe about 14 million. You know, there'll be fees for loans and stuff that won't be really reported. But the crux of it being, if you're spending about £15 million on an entire season, which also includes the fact that you were attacking or trying to qualify for Champions League, but now find yourself in Europa League and in a next phase of it, and you think that's acceptable, then fuck me, man. We are as well as being back in the 90s, mate.
Aye, it feels like it, mate. It feels like we're going to be back there, because we're certainly not investing in a club, and we'll be coming into another stage where there will be people, there already is, wanting rid of this board. There's going to be another fan movement against the board in order to make change. And I can't wait for the day when the game is over and the Rebels win again. I really can't. And I think that will be sooner rather than later, shall I say, because let's face it, they've ran their course, mate. I thought this would have been an easy fix. Not an easy fix, an easy way out, basically, for the board. See if they went out there and they spent, like you said, Steve, 15 million here or there, brought in guys like Casper Hall, Matt Savanese, a couple of the midfielders. Spent the crux here, a decent wedge, and brought in enough players for us to sit here and go, wow, that was actually a decent transfer window. It was an easy win for them. And I don't think that they've took it. I think they've just shit the bed. Basically, they've just done what they always do and disappointed the fans as usual.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and the thing is, we spoke about Joe Muvka. Again, I don't want to labour the stats. And again, it is just stats. But you look across the board and his numbers aren't great. 183 games at pro, 14 goals and 22 assists. Now, bear in mind, he's an attacking player and he's a winger. Like I said with Tanecki, and I know I'm whipping Tanecki a wee bit, But what baffles me about some of these guys that we're looking at, I can understand when you look at Karanka, I can understand when you look at Adamu, there is a body of work. There's been a good point that's got them big moves, and depending on the system they play in, it might just not work for them. So I understand there's variables, and I see that there's ability and there's talent in those guys. Arahu as well, there's good talent in there. But when I look at Muvka, we're waiting on confirmation on that, I just don't see the track record. I don't see any level of progression, a steady build where he's maybe had a 4-goal season, then he's had a 7-goal season, then he's maybe dropped to a 5, but it's relatively consistent. It's so sporadic that it just baffles me that anybody can look at that and think, but when they come to Celtic, they're suddenly going to kick on. You know, I said this about Taneki when I was on with Stephen the other night. A guy that Hammerby bought for about 400 grand, and in the space of under a year, he suddenly became a £5 million player with the Celtic tax. It's mental. And it just shows up exactly where we are. And you mentioned someone, so let's talk about him. Oxlade-Chamberlain, mate, a guy who has not kicked a ball for Besiktas. That was the last team that he was at. And if I bring up his stats here in the Super League when he was at Besiktas, the last time he kicked a ball was the 11th of the 5th, 2025, where he had 11 minutes on the park. He's since been trying to get himself fit. He's been training with Arsenal, I believe. And that's what we've got. I just don't think that this should ever be considered. If people thought Iheanacho was bad, this is as embarrassing as it gets, mate.
Yeah, that's the thing. Was it not Dele Alli, the last transfer window we were linked with?
Yeah.
I think he was linked with Aberdeen this transfer window. Yeah, we're always going to get that, Steve. Obviously, the Raheem Sterling thing as well, we were linked with him. I thought that was due to Brendan being in charge of Celtic. But obviously that link's still there because he's obviously still looking for a club as well. Do I think these guys could come in and do a job in the SPL? Probably. But
I mean,
are they
could
going
they
to
after such a layoff though? Could they?
I know, I get that. But I don't think if you've been playing at that level of the Premier League, yes, he's been out in Turkey for a wee while and whatever else, but I think if you've been playing at that level, then you must be decent enough. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant when he was at, I say he was brilliant when he was at Liverpool. He was a good player when he was at Liverpool. So I'd like to think that he could still come up and do a job. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. I think it's one of the ones that's just been thrown out there. We'll throw a name in there. We'll keep people off the scent of some of the other dafties that we're bringing in. And like you say, Steve, there's no quality brought in here at all. And I've seen some people in the chat saying about the loans having the option to buy. And as far as I'm led to believe, the Benjamin Arthur one from Brentford, there is no option to buy there. It's the same way Araujo. As far as I'm led to believe, Karanka does have the option to buy, and I'm not sure about the other guy, but we'll wait and see. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as people are saying, it's embarrassing. As Daniel's saying again, it's embarrassing. I can't believe that we are getting linked with guys like this. I can't. You know, and as people are saying, like, it's one just sort of throwing it at the wind up. We're assessed with stats. We're not. It's all we've got, and we're talking about anybody as we've got a reference point. The eyeball test will always tell you. You know, the eyeball test is always the most important one, I think, that's there. But I think it's safe to say, Paddy, everybody's thinking it's absolutely embarrassing that Oxlade-Chamberlain is getting mentioned in the same breath as Celtic at this point. You know, this is just absolutely ridiculous, Patter. But I expect that we will eventually jump into the free agent market at some stage. I think it's almost inevitable, because it's exactly what we've done with Iheanacho. We knew that we were incredibly light, to say the least, after that transfer window, and we says, well, what didn't we get? Oh, we didn't get a striker, right? Go and fill it. So take your pick from whatever position we didn't get, and you might fill it out with a temp loan for a guy who's out of contract, who's just happy to be alive and playing, or getting offered the chance to play, and he'll be get wages at a reasonable rate and maybe a chance to get himself fit to the summer.
Yeah, so let's look at it then, right? Let's get the rumour mill up and running. If we're going to the free transfer market, Who does Sean Maloney bring to that table? Who's been at Everton and is out of contract? Who's been at, where else was he? Wigan. Any Belgium internationals that that are out of contract. You look at Fozzie, how many contacts has Fozzie got out in Germany? So you get the German market there as well. Neill, Martin's got a good contact book. If we're going to be fishing about the free transfer market, Steve, well, that's basically players who haven't got signed in this transfer window because of a couple of options. One being they're absolutely shite. Two being that they are unlucky. They are disruptive. They are. You look at it. You're going to have players in there that are hidden gems. Of course, yeah. When we brought in Iheanacho, was I overly impressed? No, I wasn't. Do I think he could do a job? But see if he could stay fit. I think Iheanacho could be a great player. But again, I think it comes down to that lack of fitness and that lack of understanding of the Scottish game. I think Vanchera is going to be a very, very good player for us. For what I've seen from him so far, I think that he's going to be our number one striker going forward from here. Even when Iheanacho's fit, even if Dyson wants to play through in the middle, I don't think he's going to be given that opportunity. Because he's shown more in the last two games than what I've seen from pretty much any striker that we've had play up front this season.
Yeah, I think as it says here, there's two that have got the options to buy. That's decent, and let's face it, it's the positions that we need the options on. So hopefully that's I can't believe I'm going to say this. That's the only slight positive that I can take away from these deals that have been done here, is that we knew we needed good striking options, and we've got two in the door. Hopefully they do turn out to be good striking options, but we've at least included an option because we knew what happened with Adamida, of course, the last time we got an lone striker that performed well during that same period, that same sort of window. And we stung ourselves by not having that option. So at least we have got that. But yes, we're still light. We're still light in the midfield. We're still light in the wing. And regardless of some guy that's 20 coming in for Brentford, we're still very light at the back. The return of the likes of Alistair Johnson really can't come quick enough at this rate, mate.
Yeah, exactly. We need the guys to return as well, Steve. And I think that might be why we haven't went out there. And obviously we've got quite a lot of concern over injuries and stuff. We were kind of hamstring FC at one point as well, weren't we? Everybody popping hammies and pulling up and whatever else. So we're waiting on the return of Jota, we're waiting on the return of Carter Vickers, we're waiting on the return of Alistair Johnson, Callum Osmond, although he's not going to be a first starter in that squad, but it just shows how light we are. Yes, when you get all these back, you're going to have an extra a few in your squad, and that's probably why the loan signings are probably the option that we've went with here. But for me, mate, it's laughable. If you've got players out injured, it doesn't matter if they're going to come back or not. You need to strengthen the squad. Whoever we come up against, you just need to look at the Europa League, right? We've got a tie there against Stuttgart, and that's going to be a toughie, mate. That's going to be a very, very hard tie for us to get through. And we don't have like for like to come off the bench. If we're taking guys like Arnie Engels off in the middle of the park, we don't have anybody of that quality to come on and replace him. If we take off Araujo when he gets into the European squad, we don't have anyone of the quality of Araujo to come back on either. And it's the same when you look at the wings as well. Somebody said in the comments, but no other wingers been brought in. And that just shows the shit state of where we are. Sarachi, we're obviously waiting on him coming back to relieve Kieran Tierney because KT's been playing a hell of a lot of football. And at one point as well, we took KT off and replaced him with Tony Ralston. It just shows you how light we are as a football squad, mate. And that for me is where it comes down to. So that's where you need to be going out and bringing in. I'm not asking for quantity. I do want quality players, but we've got the money there to do it. And there's many, many hidden gems out there that you can find.
No, I agree, and obviously we're talking about Araujo, and he's getting a lot of love, and rightfully so. He's been phenomenal since coming. I'm not saying that we need Johnson back because he's not the standard, I think that Johnson's going to have a hard work getting himself
Yeah,
back in the squad, actually. But what I mean by that is for this like for like that we've got, because I don't want us dropping down to Kobe Donovan. I don't want us dropping down to an Anthony Ralston. It just gives a wee bit more flexibility. And also with the way he's got, I think that Araujo's got enough in his locker that we are quite thin on the wings, as you know. I think you could push him forward, and you could even maybe get Johnson and Araujo as well. So there you
yeah,
go, as has just been said there. So that also gives us options. So it's just we've got to try and look a wee bit positive in that respect to what we've got available there. But as I've said before, as I said when I was on earlier with Stevie, this is the squad that we've got, and it is important now for every single one of them to just try and push out their maximum, the last ounce of effort that they've got to just go over the line. For many of them, it'll be the last couple of months of their Celtic career, hopefully. And I don't mean that because there is some guys that I think should just be gone because they're not good enough. But there's also some that I think have outstayed their welcome and I want to move. And for their benefit as well, you don't want to keep unhappy players around. So I think they just need to get their head in the game, reset, understand where they are, and make the best of it, and hopefully push us over the line and win this league. And there's positivity there that we will win the league. I feel slightly more optimistic because of the striking options. I would
yeah,
definitely say that. The fact that we've got some striking options in, and state the obvious, Stevie, because goals win games. But if
yeah.
they can score, then I think that we can push on and certainly win the league. I still have my reservations about our fragility at the back, though.
Yeah, that's the thing for me, mate. It's where we are at the back. I don't want to kind of go back to the old Ange philosophy at the start, where it was we'll score more than you. Basically, we know we're going to
Mhm.
concede, but we'll go out there and we'll score more. And we were very, very attacking side when it came to stuff like that. But I I agree with you. I am more confident going into games when you've got guys like Schwanchera up front. You've got Dyson playing on the left and things like that. And I'm quite happy that we've managed to hold on to guys like Dyson Maeda. And obviously, we said earlier on, Arne Engels. Uh, I do think that. I'll ask you a question now, Steve. Do you think that by Arne Engels being told probably that he's not allowed to leave Celtic at this period in time, do you think that'll have an adverse effect on him?
Personally, I don't. And again, if go back to what he said, where he had no intention of leaving Celtic and he wanted to stay on, at least for the foreseeable. I think that it can work twofold. If he's wanting to stay, that's fine. Now, there's no doubt if he goes to Nottingham Forest, if he gets his games, and despite the fact that they're in a relegation battle, just by design of being in the Premier League, he probably throws himself into the Belgian international mix almost overnight. So he'll probably have that at the back of his mind. But I also think he's probably looked at it and went, yep, everybody wants to go to the Premier League, but it is a scrap. And again, does he have that mentality for a scrap? Because people are questioning his ability to do it at a team that are cruising most of the time. Obviously, we're in a wee bit of a fight this time around, but it's a total different situation there. But what I do think it will do, I think it might actually inspire him, because if he's seen that team coming in from the Premier League and offering that kind of money, and obviously there was the rumours about the RB Leipzig interest as well. I
Yeah,
think if anything, it will probably inspire him to go, do you know what? In the summer, those moves, those price tags will still be there. And I actually hope that it'll kick him on where even if it's playing for a move, I'm all right with
yeah.
that.
No, listen, I'm good with that, mate, and I hope that that's the case. He'll maybe look at it and go, "Wow, I've been absolutely shit," and this mob are interested in me. Maybe if I'd done a wee bit here, I could do something. I get to a top six team, and that's kind of the idea for these guys, like you say, Steve. They're all pushing for a slot in the Premier League. They're all pushing for a place in one of those kind of big teams that is going to cement their place in their international setup. I think that being able to keep these guys is a massive achievement for us as well. But overall, Steve, I think I'm kind of looking at a transfer window and going, it's an absolute farce that we haven't actually spent any money, and all we've done is bring in guys on loan that are going to be away in 6 months. And
Mhm.
it just fills me with fear. I think we might get it over the line. I'm not as confident as what I was at the start. I'm certainly not as confident as a few of the guys in the chat there. I wouldn't put my neck on the line here just now and say that, yeah, we'll push on and win this league. I think that the next 5 games are absolutely pivotal for us. And I think we have got an easier running than Hearts and Rangers. So where it comes down to the next 5 games, after that, if we are sitting on top of the pile after this 5 games, then I will be extremely positive that we can push on for there.
Yeah, well, there's plenty to play for. There's not much more that we can do now. There's nothing we can do other than potentially the old free agent situation. We'll see how that one goes. As I say, still nothing around this Joe Muvka official as such, but I'm sure that, as we've seen, Welsh is supposed to be going down to Motherwell, and as late as 12 o'clock for paperwork to complete it. So it might well be a situation that, but we'll see how that one comes out, and hopefully, just hopefully, it is enough, and it's a case of saying hopefully, because it still feels a wee bit light to us. It feels a wee bit light to me as well, but I am slightly positive that we have striking options, because that was the big problem. And if we can sort of lighten the burden on guys like Nigrin and stuff, then we could do well. But as you say, there's some big games coming up, and it's important for us to kick on. I would have liked a wee bit more, simply just looking at the Stuttgart game, because in that knockout format, I'm not going to sit here and say we'll go semi-finals, final, but it would have been nice to think, we'll at least negotiate that one, and then you get a shot at another. I think it was Braga or Porto again, and you never know what's going to happen in these head-to-head games in the Cup. And I would have liked us to have a wee bit more. Do I think we've got the required quality for that? Hard to tell. And also, plus, I think we can only change 3 in the squad. So what ones are you going to pick there? That's a big question to ask as well. But we'll see. So anyway, it's been very, very late on, and there's been nearly about 1,100 of these joining us for over the last hour there. Thank you very much. As we say, if there's 1,100 of these thereabouts, if you haven't done it already, smash into the like, give us a big thumbs up, share it, get involved in the community, subscribe. It costs you nothing, which again, I will say it, I can't believe I'm saying it, which is the exact same amount of money as Celtic have paid on a transfer during this transfer window. But there we go. There we go. So
remember, Paddy, we used to slag Rangers for that, Steve. It cost you the exact same as a Rangers transfer. That was one of our wee sign-offs. It's actually came right round to bite us in the arse. So, like Steve says, guys, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny, but it helps us out massively. Gets us on all the algorithms and all that kind of jazz, and we really, really do appreciate all the support.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. We'll be back through the week. There's obviously a game round the corner against Aberdeen. Maybe we'll get to see some of these new signings get a wee run out there. Again, you'd never think I'd say it, but a game against Aberdeen, despite it being away, feels like a good game to go into, because they are red rotten. So let's start with a positive result there, and hopefully as I kick on and I hit the ground running for these guys that have come in. So take care of yourselves. It is what it is. I wish I could be more philosophical about it. It is what it is. Once again, we have been sold a dafty, but we will not be sitting here and we will not fall silent. I think that there is many things to come from the Celtic fan base with regards to conveying our message of dissatisfaction to this board. Long may it continue, and we might just get a surprise by the end of the week, and we might hear that some of the incompetents that run this organisation that we call Celtic Football Club are out the door with a P45 shaped bullet fired their way. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and Paddy boy,
as always, guys, hail, hail.